Hi, everybody. My name is Chet Harrison. I'm a musician. I play classical guitar. I play many places, but one place I like to play is at Balboa Park. The reason I'm here is lately the park rangers have been on a vendetta against amplifiers. Every time I play in public, in an outdoor setting, and most of the time in an indoor setting as well, I use an amplifier just to be heard above ambient noise. Um, 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 the classical guitar was designed to be played inside, okay? So the Rangers have been citing people at the park for playing with amplifiers, even though that the rules that they put down is kind of an ambiguous statute. What I'm asking for, instead of having a ban on amplifiers, is to have a noise ordinance, because what they are doing is having a ban on amplifiers instead of actually enforcing a noise ordinance. Because what led to this was other rude musicians out there playing at sports arena levels. Now, the case history, as far as busking in public spaces and amplifiers, is pretty clear. And it comes down on the side of a noise ordinance rather than a ban on amplifiers. Okay, because this is a First Amendment issue as well. Because I use amplifiers so I can play with dynamics. So ironically, I can play quietly, produce more beautiful music if I'm using an amplifier than without. Because
Sorry, your time has concluded. If you have additional comments, you can definitely email them in, William Dorsett, and you can email those to cityclerk@sandiego.gov, and we'll be sure to distribute it.
Instead of speaking, I have a video for y'all to watch.
Balboa Park is always a popular place to see buskers or street performers creating art on the weekend.
We've loved it so far. I'm here with my 2-year-old son who's really into guitars and drums right now. Obviously the bubbles have been a big hit, so...
Can you reach in and take out any card you please? Anyone, I don't care. Stacy, you're so gullible. Don't take that card. Uh-oh, I'm gonna get a ticket for that.
Hey, hey, mama, rock me. Drunk guy!
Your time has concluded. It's time. Thank you. The next speaker is Marion Stamper, or Martin Stamper. Okay, thank you. Kat Pike. And then after that, we'll be taking Greg Breyer, Eric Goodwin, Fabiana Costa, as well as Jesse Mock. Please proceed.
Good morning, everyone. So I am an artist, a busker, and a photographer, and my primary spot to go is Balboa Park. However, recently I've been afraid to even just take pictures of butterflies, birds, like I normally do in the park because the rangers have been inconsistent and just retaliating against anyone who is a performer, an artist, a musician. They have one rules one day and then they go against those rules that they made that day and change it again. And if you try to report it to the head honchos of the park, I'm not sure what to call them, then they just don't do anything about it. They make up excuses for the rangers, and there's no one to report them to. And it's very inconsistent. I don't feel safe emotionally anymore. I get anxious just going to the park. So please help us at the park. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Greg Breyer.
There are two Balboa parks. One Balboa Park has musicians, magicians, painters, acrobats, living statues, and more. It's vibrant, alive, creative, and inclusive. This Balboa Park celebrates freedom of expression, diversity, and art. Unfortunately, this Balboa Park has been killed off in favor of another Balboa Park. This Balboa Park is pompous. It is exclusive. It only values art so much as people will pay admission to see it. This park is vanilla, uninteresting, and boring. It's San Clemente without a beach. Some might argue that the quote-unquote real art is in those museums. Where do you think that real art came from? Thin air? Art is and always will belong to the street. Artists starve, and that's fine. But we're being suffocated with the green boot, and this is unacceptable for the artists and its visitors. The response has been for us to work with the rangers. We do work with the rangers, but they don't work with us, and they treat us like criminals. If the city truly appreciates art and supports the arts, as Mayor Gloria suggested, it's certainly not evident in that corpse of a park that was once vibrant, alive, and inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Eric Goodwin.
Hello, I'm Eric Goodwin. I've been drawing funny caricature portraits of people's faces at Balboa Park for 13 years. I was here a couple of weeks ago as well. I moved to San Diego 13 years ago, and I love the city, but my favorite place is Balboa Park, which I know very well and have explored hundreds of times. In addition to making visual art, I also enjoy making music. I recently finished making a song and music video that showcases and celebrates what is unique and beautiful about the sights and sounds of the park. You can find the 7-minute long video on YouTube, so I won't be able to show it all here, and it's called Balboa Park, a musical remix. In it, you'll find musicians, magicians, artists, and other buskers. And I think you'll find in watching the video that they are a vital part of the heart of the park. Included in that video are Chet the guitarist and Jesse the musician, who are here today. Again, it's called Balboa Park, a musical remix. So while drawing, I spend a lot of time also playing tour guide for the city and the park for the people that I'm drawing. I point out restaurants, cafes, museums, gardens, the visitor center at the park, and I feel like we, artists and buskers, better represent the positive energy and peacefulness of the park than the rangers do. My art is not just a product, it's entertainment and an experience for residents and tourists on vacation. During a drawing, there's a lot of laughing and people having a great time that is often a highlight of their vacation. Buskers and artists and I bring a lot of joy to countless park goers every year. In my opinion, buskers and artists are some of the most interesting, kind, and friendly people you'll meet. Meanwhile, what do the rangers bring to the park? They disturb the peace, they harass artists and musicians, they're turning art and performance into a problem and a crime for no good reason. Rangers are unreasonable, impatient, and have a bully mentality, and are destroying what is great about the park. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Fabiana Costa.
I'm also an artist, and I've been going to Balboa Park for over 6 years. For the first maybe 4 or 5 years, I got the permit with you guys. And we set up at the Prado, along the Prado, and the fire department, I guess, the fire code hasn't changed, but now I'm being kicked out of the Prado. I've been told I can't be there because the fire lanes, now the trucks, the fire department doesn't require any larger space than it did a few years back. So It's just more of the city violating the rights. I don't know who is giving the okay. The rangers are going around giving citations to people, bubble people, homeless people, doing chalk. It's a nonsense. There's a lot of rights being violated, and basically it needs to be stopped. I don't know if it needs to cost money to the taxpayers. Something needs to be done, and basically that's why we're here. It's not just that they're coming to enforce laws. They're enforcing laws they barely understand, and they give miscommunication. They give them one information one day, the next day it's a different information. So maybe get some education programs so where they can understand what they're supposed to do before they go harassing people. Because people come from all over the world to see the art that's inside the museum. A lot of times the museums are closed. And I receive emails from people all over the world saying, hey, this is a souvenir and it's the best memory of Balboa Park, because unfortunately the museums are closed. So I think that what everybody is saying here, it's following up with what I'm saying. My rights are being violated. I don't know who's giving the okay to that, and I would like that issue to be addressed, because it's really interfere with my financial, my mental, emotional health, and I just don't know what to do about it. Art is my religion. It's my life.
Thank you for your comments, Jesse Mock.
I'm Jesse, one of the last performers in Balboa Park. Most of the others have left. I have 2 court cases with court costs of over $900 for using my amplifier for my quiet voice, as well as obstruction of traffic, even though I was performing in a large open space by the pond. This will not hold up in court, and the rangers are stepping on our rights of freedom of artistic expression. The law the park rangers are using states the use or operation of any sound production or reproduction device for the production of sound in such a manner as to disturb the peace, quiet, or comfort of any reasonable person of normal sensitivity in any area of the city is prohibited. I have a very quiet voice. I've actually lost my voice since not using the amplifier. And I've never had a single complaint in 10 years. I use my amp respectfully just to broadcast it to a relatively small audience. The performers and artists are considering a class action lawsuit for damages and distress if this doesn't get fixed. There are several court cases that have already been awarded to performers around the US for very similar circumstances, including a case very similar in Venice Beach, which said a ban on amplifiers is unconstitutional. My friend in Hawaii was awarded $50,000 for damages. My friend in Palm Springs was awarded $30,000 for similar reasons. This is a waste of everyone's time. The courts are already overwhelmed with much more serious matters, and this will get expensive for the city if things don't change. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker in chambers is Bob Kazuski.
I just want to say I sympathize with the folks that just spoke. Our parks are for the people, not to be industrialized. I was at, hold on. As I spoke yesterday, I talked about the concessionaire at the Torrey Pines glider port flicking a cigarette butt at me. I didn't have time to present it. This is for Mr. Joe LaCava. Please play the video. Thank you.
Also relayed that it's because I have spoken before the city council. In other words, I spoke to the city council showing problems at that glider port, and those speeches that I made to the city council were used to expel me from an organization, a private organization that I must belong to in order to use our public land. Does that bother you?
No. It doesn't bother me because when we contract out with private vendors, which we do across our city for the exclusive use of our public lands, that's something that we do on a regular basis throughout the city. We do have private vendors controlling public land through a lease agreement.
And you allow those public vendors to exclude people from using public land simply because they speak to the city council or testify in court?
We allow the vendors, we allow that.
We allow that. We allow people to take control of our public land and exclude people explicitly in writing from using that land because they dare to come to this city council and tell you about the problems that they are creating. If you don't see that as a problem, Mr. LaCava, you do not deserve to be serving the people of San Diego. And the same goes for every other one of you who hasn't spoken up about this. You ought to be smart enough to figure out that this is wrong. Thank you.
I will be setting the 5-minute timer here in chambers. We currently have 12 speakers in the virtual queue for non-agenda public comments, starting with Lori Saldana.
Yes, thank you. Well, it's clear from prior comments just now that many residents in San Diego are simply not being provided with the most basic legal representation if they are wrongly cited or arrested. Earlier, a council member noted the lack of city attorney in the office to represent people. And San Diegans are often forced to rely on pro bono representation. And that's why attorneys like Scott Dreyer and Colleen Cusack have successfully defended the constitutional rights of many San Diegans. Scott negotiated with the city to ensure people's rights are protected under recent court rulings on habitation, and Colleen Cusack has dedicated countless unpaid hours to uphold the constitutional rights of San Diegans. Colleen forced the city to cease the use of red light camera systems that were wrongly penalizing and fining San Diegans. They were found to be operated in an illegal manner. And many of Colleen's clients are older, disabled. They live in extreme poverty. So I think listening to the representatives or listening to the comments today, it reminds me that attorneys like Colleen Cusack, she does the best in terms of community service. And she's a substitute school teacher to supplement her income so she can devote her time, her skills, and her expertise to representing people who are unfairly targeted by police. So I really want to encourage San Diegans who are speaking today to find out more about Scott Dreyer and find out more about Colleen Cusack and her work to defend the rights of San Diegans. She's been doing it for 25 years. She lives in North Park, and she's really a great advocate. And I think that she would be interested in some of the cases that are up before the council during comments today. So thanks to those people who testified. Thank you for seeking justice before the council. I don't think you're going to find it there, but I encourage you, talk to Colleen Cusack. I think she would be a much better person to help you in these matters.
Your time has concluded. Dr. Mel, the Squid Lady.
Thank you. I am also here to speak on behalf of the buskers and street performers. I've spoken with you guys a couple of times in the past, and we urgently, urgently need your help. We've been referred back to the Parks Department to talk with them about how to move forward, and Councilmember Whitburn, we're not getting anywhere. We would very much like to have a professional mediation where we can sit down and be treated as equals instead of as, again, criminals. I'd like to give lots of acknowledgement, especially to William Dorsett, for helping us organize. We are able to come together, as you can see, to speak to these are problems that we are losing our Balboa Park vibe with the magicians and the musicians all having to go somewhere else in order to be able to continue the work that we're choosing to do. So my request is, amongst yourselves, can you look at the number of citations that have been issued to performers in Balboa Park? Can you come visit us on the weekend and watch the behaviors between the park rangers and the performers and artists? Can you find a way to save us the time that it is taking us to come to these meetings? Every one of us has taken time from work, our day off, in order to be here with you. And that costs us a lot of money as well. So I'm Dr. Mel, the Squid Lady. I teach neuroscience and mental health tools on the street where there isn't a paywall. I support the well-being of our families, and I am afraid to set up and perform at Balboa Park because I am afraid of how the Rangers are treating everybody. thank you for any help you can provide. Please don't push us back to the Parks Department and tell us that they're going to solve it.
Your time has concluded. Thank you. Judy Strang?